I think that everyone goes through life and we go through suffering, struggles, and there comes a point where we wonder, why am I going through this? Why am I suffering? Why me? And I had that for so long. And now I can look back and say, it wasn't why me, it was thank God me, so that I had to go through that so someone else doesn't.
Why me? Oh boy, how many times have you said those words to yourself? It's usually not a positive thing, is it? And I'll be honest, I have said those words more times than I can count, and I really need to sit back in that moment right after I share those words and put those out there in the universe and say, what am I saying to myself? And I really need to get clear in that moment because it's usually not positive, right? And it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes that I actually shared in my Brain Candy newsletter this week. If you're not following me, I highly recommend you give it a look-see at hilaryrusso.com/thrivehive. Sign up. I share some good stuff, a little humor in the healing, and it's those inspiring ways to be kind to your mind. But anyway, the words come from Eckhart Tolle in his book, The New Earth, and it's one of my favorites, and it goes like this. Life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. How do you know this is the experience you need? Because this is the experience you are having at the moment. That's not the first time I've shared that. And there's a reason why. And when model Nikki Sharp realized that the moment wasn't healthy for her, after years of battling an unhealthy relationship with food, with her body, with her life in general, she made the shift. And it's been a journey. It hasn't been easy. And it's due to her own transformation that she's here today, able to guide others to live healthy and well. We talk about that during our conversation, making that transition into the wellness space, which is something we have both done. Of course, I wasn't a model. I have my own journey, as we all do. But basically, she shares how her own change is guiding others to change their lives. And it's not about doing it for them. It is not about empowering them. It's not about healing them. We talk about that too. It is about being the guide by the side, which is really even more empowering because it's putting those tools in those who we serve's own hands to do it themselves. That's where we get empowered. And we talk about making that transition, but also a lot of that involves the power of manifesting. We hear that word a lot, don't we? And what you need to really crowd out of your life in order to allow the positive in. Plus, we're talking about the ultimate transformation, how you can work with Nikki personally. She has this incredible program that is starting soon. And if you sign up and you use the special link that I'm providing for you in the listen notes, you get 10% off that program. 10%. Your true wealth is your health. So she's giving you access to her program for a little less, and you're still going to get all the good stuff in there. So check out the podcast notes for that link. And lastly, before we get into the conversation, I really need to hear from you. I told you last week on HIListically Speaking that my word for this year is amplify. And it's not just about my voice. You hear my voice enough. I hear my voice enough. It is about me holding space for you to share your voice. So here's what I need to hear from you. Okay. And this is a great starting point because I talk about gratitude a lot, and as we should, right? Everything starts with gratitude. And if you start your day with 2 minutes of gratitude every day before you grab the phone, before you turn on the TV, before you check the news, before you dart out the door, it is scientifically proven to elevate your happiness 6 to 8 hours later by 27%. I know I've shared that before too, because that's a pretty strong statistic that I think makes a difference in our livelihood and our happiness. So what I want you to do is tell me one thing you are grateful for. That's what you want to amplify. And how I want you to do that, I want you to own it. I want you to tell me who you are, where you're coming from, where you listen from. I want you to do that and then tell me what you're grateful for. And listen, my fellow podcasters out there, I know you're listening too. Mention your show and I'll give it a shout out. I will add that to what this podcast episode will be all about. All you have to do is go to speakerpipe.com/HIListically Speaking and leave your message. Leave me a voice message there. And if you prefer to do it in writing, that's fine too. That is still amplifying, by the way. That is still using your voice. So all you have to do is just drop me an email then. Go to HIListicallySpeaking@gmail.com. It's as easy as that. Okay, it is time for the ultimate transformation with Nikki Sharp. Nikki, I'm really happy you're here. You have so much value to share. You have so many transformations that you've had in your own life and different avenues that you've taken. And I think the biggest part of that comes from your world of working in modeling and moving out of that world into the wellness space, which both of those are so competitive. And I understand the second one. I am not a top model, but
nor was I. Nor was I.
It's a tough world. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to be yourself and hard to find yourself. And sometimes you get lost being yourself because of the elements around you rather than focusing and going within. So share your story, girl. Let us know how it goes. I know Hilistically Speaking listeners are like waiting for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you kind of the shorter version because like everyone, it's a longer version, which has led me to where I am today. But I grew up from, 10 years old wanting to be a model. I was tall and thin and just looked at these women in magazines. And that was the day, of like Giselle and Kate Moss and just these beautiful magazine covers. And I'd plaster them all over my wall. And I ended up going into that industry both because I wanted to and just had the body. However, I never took care of my body as we're not really taught to as we're young, or we know more now. And so I then became kind of skinny fat at one time. And that triggered all of these different things of being in this industry where women are just like rail thin. And I was not, even though I am quite thin, I was not at that time. So from there, I was about 19 and I mean, the long short of it, 19, went to LA for a year for modeling and acting, and then graduated university early, a year early, went to Shanghai. From Shanghai, went to Sydney, Seoul, Bangkok, Athens, London, New York. And then later on lived in different places. And so the modeling industry is, I think most people can imagine, it's pretty tough. It's very competitive. You are not chosen based on your personality or how you show up or how much you know. You are chosen just if you're the right fit for the job, which is hard because you have no control over it. So having no control over it made me then want to seek control, as we all want control in our life. And that's where my eating disorders came from. I had body dysmorphia, like you name it, dealt with it, anxiety, depression. Because when you're going through that level of control, trying to seek a perfect body, it's just natural that happens. And so I go through this whole journey of going to doctors. They put me on antidepressant medication. I'm like, no. Like, I'm not depressed. And they put me on medication to try to make me gain weight. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I can't do that in this industry. And being in places like Bangkok, they would send girls home if 2 weeks in a row they gained weight, which you do because you're like in this beautiful place with food and it's amazing. And they would just left, right, and center send girls home. And through all of that, I went into a 11-year and ongoing, a lifelong journey of healing and learning myself and understanding who I am, understanding why I had the eating disorders. And when I say eating disorders, I know not everyone's going to relate to that. And so another way to look at it is control over food, fear of food, or any sort of disordered eating. And so that's what I was dealing with in so many different aspects. And by accident, I ended up in the health world, in the wellness industry, because of what I was learning and everything that I learned. I was so passionate about teaching other people, and not even as a career. Like, I was just sharing on Instagram. 2013 is when I started my account as a place to really be honest with myself about my journey. And I would post fit girls and meal photos just to keep myself accountable. And because there was that radical transparency and no one else was doing it at the time, I ended up, people followed me, and then I learned more, I shared more. And now I realize that pretty much most of what I went through, I kind of had to go through in order to get to where I am now. And I am so fulfilled in what I do and getting to share and help other people. But my journey was incredibly tough to get here. And I think I'll kind of end this monologue of, I think that everyone goes through life and we go through suffering, struggles, and there comes a point where we wonder, why am I going through this? Why am I suffering? Why me? And I had that for so long. And now I can look back and say, it wasn't why me, it was, thank God, me, so that I had to go through that so someone else doesn't. I now have the tools to teach it so someone else doesn't have to have the suffering. And I'm like, I'll take it. I wouldn't go back and change any of it. So accidentally got in the wellness industry just by trying to heal myself naturally, because doctors, therapists, no one else was doing it for me. And I also learned, like, I was giving my power away thinking they would heal me. No one else can heal you but you at the end of the day.
Thank you, Nikki Sharp. I say that all the time. I really kind of hate the word healer.
Yes.
Like when people are like, oh, she's a healer. When people call me that, I'm like, whoa. Yes, I am. For me, but not for any of my clients. My clients, I do not want to take away that power and let them feel like they are so reliant on me that they have to meet with me. It's kind of the antithesis of being a therapist or a practitioner or a coach, that you kind of want your clients not to come back at some point because you've done something of service for them, that you've given them the tools. And if they need you to come back for something else, you are so there.
Yes.
But that whole idea of the healer having the control over someone else, it just doesn't feel right. It's icky,
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm just so passionate about this because that's actually what I tell my clients too. Like, I have my ultimate transformation program, and more so the one-on-one, which is 5 months. And I tell people, I don't want to see you after my program. I don't want to be a therapist working with you for 6 years. Right. And I know friends who have done that. My goal is that I give you the tools that you empower yourself. And yeah, sure, you might need to come back for a refresher. You have another challenge, but I don't want to work with you and I think that we get so caught up in looking for a doctor, looking for, a coach, looking at a nutritionist. And I see so many clients going from person to person to person looking for the answer. And it's like, no, like, it's in you, but you got to learn to trust you.
Yeah, I call it the therapeutic breakup.
Yes, that's amazing.
We've all been there, and I say it all the time. It's the therapeutic breakup. I don't know how many times I'm like, I think I need to break up with my therapist, because you don't align with that person anymore. And you know what? That's okay too, because a good therapist or a good coach, well, a good therapist and good coach and good practitioners have their own, first of all. 100%. Secondly, right? We're constantly doing our own work. The second thing on that is that a good therapist, a practitioner, or a coach is also going to be like, you do you, girl. You do what you feel you need. I'm here if you need a refresher or a pick me up or that call, or there's so much content that I'm putting out there. I hope you're resonating with it, whether it's our podcasts, whether it's doing a live, whether it's our programs or any workshops that we do. That's where you can also get the refresher if you don't want to do it one-on-one going forward. So align with you on that. And, you mentioned briefly your program. You have a new program that's coming out, The Ultimate Transformation. Let's talk about that.
Sure. So that comes out, it opens March 18th. Doors are open for registration right now as we're recording this and filming. I do this typically once a year, this program. This is the first time that I'm doing it 2 times in a year, just because people see the results that others have and I got demand for it. So essentially it's a 4-month program where everything that I've learned in my 13-year journey of, if not longer, of healing and overcoming the eating disorders and doing inner child work, forgiveness, exercises. The basis of the program, and this is where I'm very different than most people out there, is session 1 is you introduce yourself, and it is a group program. You get one-on-one coaching with me. There's the WhatsApp community is just mind-blowing supportive. And so I've kind of taken different aspects of things that I wish that I had during my healing journey, because I'm like, I want to have access to someone 24 hours a day when shit hits the fan. And, your therapist, you only get to see them in 1 or 2 weeks. And I wanted that support, that community. And so everything that I created was essentially what I didn't have and seeing what works, what doesn't. So session 1, there's introduction. Session 2, we jump straight into your fears because the subconscious mind is 90% of the brain, and the subconscious mind is formed basically, or your identity is formed from 3 months old to 7 years old. And people don't know this, that all the challenges that you face, it's not because you're facing a challenge right now. It's because you learned how to deal with it from 3 months to 7 years old. And so I get to help people look into the subconscious mind, and because you can't do it on your own. It's the back of your head. It's impossible to do if you don't know how to do it. And so I guide people through a very therapeutic process, but it's also challenging because you're looking into the deepest, darkest corners of your soul, of the things you don't like about yourself. I get people to open up about their anger, their fears, their sadness. And from there, that's where real healing starts. It's not, as we were saying, like all the words being thrown around like self-help, self-development, like, okay, that's great. And it's not bubble baths and candles and journaling. It's if you're not willing to actually look at yourself and what you don't like, well, you're going to continue sabotaging. You're going to continue the same patterns of thought, of, beliefs of I'm never going to be rich, or I'm never going to get this, or I can't leave my partner because I'll never meet someone else. And those are all just stories in the mind. So I help people to first uncover what the story is, what the belief is, and then 2, to create new neural pathways. And so the program itself is based on science, psychology, and spirituality. And so then we go into manifesting. But the secret that nobody talks about is you can't manifest something until you get rid of the blocks. And the blocks are the fears. They are the anger. They are the, the victim mentality. Until you're willing to look at those straight in the face, you can't manifest anything, the life that you want. But what's amazing is people do this program, and it is hard work. The program is for those who are sick and tired of trying everything and nothing's working. And then they go from there and they're like, I'm ready for a change. And so it's called the ultimate transformation because you transform in all areas of your life. And what then ends up happening, people get really clear on what do they actually want, and not coming from a fear place, but what do you actually want from an abundance place, which again, you can only do when you take away those fears. And then the most miraculous thing happens. They happen. The dreams that you write down on paper, whether it's your dream partner, your dream career, how much money you want to make, dream vacations, every single thing starts to happen for the clients. And that's where I get messages 5 years down the line of like, Nikki, I can't believe this is happening. Even for, like, I'm my own best and worst client because I've tested everything on myself. And I'm like, now I'm my own best client. But for years, I was the hardest client. And it's even for me, mind blowing to see the dreams that I've written down. Like my husband is exactly manifested from a piece of paper I wrote down in 2015. He has every single 100, if not more things. And I remember the day that I looked at that and I'm like, you gotta be effing kidding me. Like, because it's scary when your dreams start to become reality. And that's where we typically sabotage is when things start to get good. It's almost the too good to be true. And then we go and sabotage ourselves. And now I'm in a place, and I teach people to be in a place just to receive, because the universe wants to deliver. But as I mentioned, it's based on spirituality, because there is something greater than this. Maybe it's yourself that you believe in, something higher than you. Maybe it's divine God, a different God, whatever that might be. And then I love to really say, like, everything that I do is based on science, because every single part of this program can be traced, and there is science backing to why it works. So I'm pretty passionate about it, if you couldn't tell.
I don't think this is anything that you're really connecting with, actually. No, everything you're saying is amazing. And I hear everything, because look, I work in neuroscience. I get it. And I am so much about the science of things. I'm a total neuroscience nerd. So everything in my own program, I'm like, it's got to be backed. I've got to have the papers behind it. I've got to know that. And that's just for me, and also because I want to show up authentically for my clients as well. But that idea that, we need to talk more about surrender too. And
Yes.
when you just said that you wrote everything down on paper and the man showed up, I get it. Like writing that love letter to yourself of that perfect person, man, woman, they, them, whatever you identify as, is so liberating and important. And the idea that we have to let go of our own agenda. Like the universe has got our back, right? Gabby Bernstein says that all the time. The universe has our back, but it's so true. And it goes way back before Gabby, right? This goes back to other cultures that actually believe that. And then we let the ego come in, and the ego loves to be like, yeah, I don't think so.
Right.
That's not how it works. And you're just like, what? And So you're like fighting with your ego. And the minute you just like let go, release, surrender, and know that this or something better is out there, and do the work too.
Yeah.
Because you're right. You get in your head, our little amygdala, or as we call her Amy in my world, loves to go to fight or flight and needs to feel safe. And if she doesn't, forget it. Nothing's happening. So the power of having a coach is so helpful in those areas, especially dealing with trauma. Like I'm working in trauma as much as I do, having the ability to support somebody is really, really essential and necessary. You cannot do trauma work on your own.
No.
So for the everyday things that you do, making these small adjustments, getting over the anxiety and the stress of the everyday. Yes, of course, these little tools that I'm sure you share are very important. But a course like this, a community, which is really important, is essential with dealing with these things that you are just on the cycle of repeat and rinse, repeat. That does not lead to resiliency. So yay you for creating this program or reintroducing it. I think it's amazing that you're doing that. So let me ask you this. Why 4 months? Why 4?
Great question. My private clients, we do 5 months, and the 5 months we talk every single day for 5. I'm like an on-call therapist, literally 24 hours a day for that 5 months.
Concierge.
Yeah. And it is. And again, that was built on what testing out different, like I used to have it 3 months. And for the private clients, I realized it needed to be longer. I tested out 3 months for UTP, the group program. And while it was great, I then tested the 4 months, and I realized that was actually that sweet spot, because I always think about me as the client, and I'm like, I don't want to sign up for a 6-month program. That just feels too long. 5 months I could do as a private client. That's fine. Now, when I think about, let's say I'm embarking on something that I've never done before, and like everyone listening will get it. You understand this, Hilary, is like, it is when you're going into something you don't know, it's scary to sign up for a long time. It's scary and financially.
Commitment.
And it's commitment. And especially when you're like, so I think I understand the concept of this marketing in this program is the hardest thing, because it's almost impossible to tell someone the changes they're going to see, which is why I rely on all the testimonials. So it's the 4 months, because I realized that's where the community gets built the most. That last month is where people see just massive, massive changes. And at the end of it, people feel like they have soul sisters for life. And truly, like, I pair everyone up with a transformation partner as well. And I spent about 2 days doing this, looking over all of your forms. And so it's like, you're paired based on age, where you live, so same time zone, and then also similar goals. And people like fall in love with their transformation partners to the point where they start planning vacations, they meet each other. And so through all of this, I just found 4 months is that sweet spot where month 1, I have a private call with each client. And then by month 4, I have another private call, and it gives them the time to really go through. And, as we both live and breathe neuroscience, so according to NASA, is that any single pattern behavior can be changed, the neural pathways in your brain, in 30 days. So if you have something that you don't like, a behavior, well, not only have you been doing that for days, weeks, probably years, you actually can change that in 30 days. So compound that 30 days with 4 months. And the programs that I launched, like I had a client I remember who used to vomit, purge up to 5 times a day, which is a horrible feeling to have. I have another client who hasn't stopped binging since 2018. She's never had more than like a week of not binging. So my one client who did UTP stopped purging after 1 month working together, and it's now been 5 years. She's never purged another day in her life from that 1 month, not one single time. My other client has gone now 1 month without binging, and she's had really stressful situations. And so that's the power of the neuroscience, of the science behind what we do and teach. And so I just found that the 4 months and the 5 months it's short enough that you can commit to it, but long enough that you see absolute transformative results.
Right. So like if the first question is when somebody is looking at a course, and I'm sure you've been there, I know I have, when I've signed up for stuff, I'm like, what's the money back guarantee on this? Now, if you're asking that question, are you really ready for that? Right. But when you make it kind of a sweet spot where it's like, of course, if you're not happy with this, and we're not even going to talk about that because you're going to be happy with this. But when you are going in with that's your first thought, how do I get my money back? You're already in that state of like
not giving it your all. Yeah, completely.
Right. Like, are you ready for this?
Yeah,
and that's okay too. If you're not ready for it right now, when is now the right time? Really, I mean, that's something that Master Kip always says. When is now the right time? The answer is right in the question.
I know. And I always actually tell people, the answer you seek is in the question that you ask.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's like based on my programs and everything that I do. I offer a 100% money back guarantee. Yeah. And I say, if you don't hit the results that you put down, your goals in session 1, 100% money back guarantee. I have never had one single person ask for it, because when you actually show up and do the work, you see all the results you want and then more. And you know, exactly as you're saying, when people go in with the mindset of, well, will this really work? I don't know. You're going to have a totally different experience than if you're going in and saying, this is an investment in me and my future self.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. This is your ROI right here. This is your return on investment. It's you, right? Yeah. So with that being said, and because you're talking about the program a little bit, I want to give folks an idea of just Nikki in general. Even if they don't do the program, is the main portion of your support those who are dealing with eating disorders? Or,
no.
Okay. and this goes outside of just UTP. This is just you in general.
In general. And all the messaging that I share, I've never been someone who has niched down, much to the demise of so many people that I've worked with. They always say, like, you must niche down.
Your niche.
I have women come to me. I'm like, I'm a multifaceted, passionate woman. Can we talk about, and that's why my podcast is A Sharper Life, because life has so many areas that I'm passionate about. Yeah. But I have women that come to me that want to lose weight. Now, the backside of why they can't lose weight is because there are fears, there's self-sabotage, there is, I mean, it really kind of goes into those two things. I'm scared I won't ever do this, or I have fear around a food, a certain XYZ. And so I wouldn't say eating disorders. I have a friend who's a famous nutritionist in the UK, and she was asked by a magazine, and I can't remember her specific statistic, but it was something like, hey, Vicky, 13% of people in the UK have eating disorders. And my friend Vicky said, no, can I please correct you? And she said, of course. She said, only 3% of people have actual diagnosed eating disorders.
Yes.
But 97% of people have some form of disordered eating. Now, when you think about it that way, do I work with people with eating disorders? Yes, I do. But do I work with that 97% a lot more? Yes.
Yeah.
Because we're scared that if we eat carbs or fat or this or that, we'll get fat, which is totally not true, because then you go and self-sabotage in so many ways. I also work with people I primarily work with women who can't find a relationship. So we go over masculine, feminine energy. I work with people learning to calm their nervous system down, being in that sympathetic state, cortisol. I work with people who are looking to achieve changes in their career, whether it's leaving a job or going after something they really love, or asking for a raise. It's kind of whatever area you want to work with, I deal with that, because it can all be boiled down to the fears that are preventing you from going after what you want, or are the fears of, I can't leave the relationship, I can't quit this job that I absolutely hate, I can't set boundaries. So I work with people a lot on boundary setting and overcoming people pleasing, fear of rejection. So it's kind of and I work with people because I've dealt with all of these issues and I've had to overcome so much that I also do executive coaching for high performers and business C-suite. And it really just goes to improving life by looking at your fears and then going forward with, what do you actually want? And most people, when you say, what do you actually want, don't know.
And it's the idea of like, even if you're supporting a lot of folks that might be struggling with a relationship with food or don't really understand how to get to where they want to be in the next step, it's really not even about that. Like, that's your control. It's so much deeper. And I think that's where the importance of having the support comes in, because being able to mirror back at your client what they don't see in themselves in the moment and be like, I understand this, but this might go back to when you were 7 years old and you were sitting at the lunch table alone and suddenly you're bullied and there's your original incident, of trauma or something like that, that could really come up that folks don't even know. And I see this a lot, and I'm sure you do in session, that people will come to you with an issue, and not saying that that issue doesn't mean something, but that presenting issue in that first moment when they're like, oh, my partner's doing this and I just don't, and this is how I feel. And it's like, is it really about that? Is it, and like in minutes you find out they're like, well, it's not really that much. And it means something, but how much are you giving it meaning? Right? So I love that you go deeper. I love that you spend this time to really get to know folks, and the community aspect and the accountability of transformation partners. Brilliant. Love that as well. For you, if you had a coach back when you were a model, when you were first starting out as that 19-year-old traveling the world, having to watch everything like you're in America's Next Top Model episode, right? Would you be the kind of coach that you would hire? If you were like, I'm 100%. At my wit's end.
100%. And this is, at least from my side, I don't do well with, or let's say this, I do better with coaches who both have empathy and compassion and can be vulnerable and share about their story, and can also kick my ass and help me with solutions. So I always look at it with The Biggest Loser, where you had Bob, the original versions.
Yeah.
You had Bob, who was like the sweetie. He was just incredibly nice, like always in your corner. And I'm like, I love you, Bob, but like, I also need someone to kick my ass and like help me see what I'm unwilling to see or choose not to. Because it's not just about what I don't see. There's things that I know and I just choose to avoid them. And sometimes you do need that person to really give you like a hard look. And this is what my clients love, is that they say that I have such a balance of that masculine energy and then also that feminine energy. And so then I look at Jillian and I'm like, whoa, Jillian was like just in her masculine all the time and like go, go, go. And like kicking your butt to the point where I'm like, I'm kind of scared of you. And so I think that there's a need for both, because when someone is in their most vulnerable state, you have to be able, as a coach, to match them where they're at and say, I understand your pain. I know how you're feeling. I've been there too. And give a personal example. So in my programs or anytime I work with a client, I'm sharing like what happens on me day to day and how I handled it, so that they get the real life examples of how am I putting the tools into action. So it's not just like, hey, here's a tool I learned 50 years ago. It's like, no, this is here now and what I did and what I could have done better. At the same time, people do need a kick in the butt. And I know how to do that with love and help people really see it. And so it's kind of this oscillation between masculine, feminine energy, holding space and also helping them really see what they don't want to. And so I would have loved to have had a coach like me growing up, and I think that's why I've modeled everything the way that I have, just because it wasn't available. The community aspect wasn't available. One-on-one coaching wasn't. Like, I paid so much money for a nutritionist plan, and I came back and I'm like, what do I even do with this?
What do you do with it? What do you have it?
I have an eating disorder. You're telling me to eat all these different things and cook all these meals. And I was like, so then it was so overwhelming that I didn't do it. And what I've really just seen is that people, especially women, they want to hear that they're doing well in their deepest, darkest moments. So I hold people's hands through the whole way, because you need to know that even if you're still not where you want to be, you're exactly where you're meant to be. And so I find that it's this beautiful level of supporting women, of making them feel validated so that they can learn how to validate themselves.
Yeah, you're just supporting
long
them.
answer for your simple question.
And what you just said really resonated with me, because as an integrative nutrition health coach as well, I've learned that doctors don't even get nutritional training in medical school. It's like an elective. It's like you can take basket weaving or a nutrition class, right? They're putting it in more universities to be a part of the curriculum. But I talked to numerous doctors, especially in integrative health, that are like, I had to do this on my own, like do the functional medicine, do the integrative medicine. But even when they do that, if you're not going to them for that reason, like all my doctors are functional medicine and integrative health, they just give you the form and they're like, you have diabetes, change this. And you're sitting there like, I don't know how to change this. I mean, you're giving me a form with foods I can and can't eat. Where's my support? And I think that's where the coaching comes. Well, it is where the coaching comes into play, because you're the liaison. You're not replacing the nutritionist. You're not replacing the dietitians. You're not replacing the doctors.
Yep.
You can work with them. And we stay within our scope of practice of knowing what we can do to support somebody. And that's how we show up authentically, you know? So Thank you for mentioning that, because I really love when I have guests and it's not always coming from me, because then it always sounds like it's coming from Mama Bear, right? I need other people to back this up, because the benefit of coaching is that you have somebody who is going to be the masculine, the feminine, who is going to be the empath, but also like the ego, and is going to be like, let's do this. Come on. Like, let's do this. Right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Right. So thank you for that. I want to mention to Holistically Speaking listeners that Nikki Sharp has this amazing program that she's about to release. It is the Ultimate Transformation Program, right? UTP.
Yep. March 18th it starts.
Not something new. You've been doing this. It's just, I'm sure you've been working through it, because we use ourselves as our own guinea pigs in our program. I know I do that with my Hug It Out program. And it's so important that you look into this. If it's not something for you right now, that's cool. That is so cool. But at least, connect with Nikki, because you're going to find value in the Sharper Life podcast. You're going to find value just connecting with her on social media. I'm going to put all of that in the listen notes. So I just want to say thank you for sharing you and all your experiences. And now I want to play a fun game with you.
All right, let's go. And I want to actually I was thinking about this as you mentioned it. I think for everyone listening, it is so vitally important that the people that you work with has their own coach, doctor, therapist. And there's bad thinking, like a therapist is like a bad word. And I'm like, no, like literally everyone should have a therapist, a coach, a mentor. And if they don't, run away from that person, because that means they're not doing the work consistently. You can't just learn the tools and then that's it. Like I've learned them. Like I'm consistently learning, upgrading, changing my system, my brain hardware system, or not hardware. The what do they call that? The brain is the brain is the hardware, and then the software. There we go. And then inside is the software. And so it's like because I remember like looking at people growing up and wanting to work with various coaches, and then it's like, it is so important that you find someone that is living, breathing, doing the work that they share with you, with someone else. It's a non-negotiable.
How do you think we learn? Yeah, I'm so glad you're reiterating that, because I don't want to go to a dentist that doesn't go to a dentist. I don't want to go to a doctor who isn't, a heart doctor who isn't checking in his own cardio, like his own health, right? And that goes for like the mindfulness side of things too. I want to know that any therapist, practitioner, coach that I am working with, me, Hilary, Nikki, is doing the work. It doesn't mean you have to go back to school, but at least be aware. And it's not about adding more LMNOPs after your name. It is about knowing about the new science of things, connecting with people, going to the kind of workshops yourself where you're learning something and can take something away. Because if we stay stagnant, we'd be stuck in a Freudian world, right? The day where you didn't share anything, you would sit on the couch and someone would be like, tell me your feelings, right? It can't be that, right? And I think there's such an important part of what you just shared prior to that is that sharing pieces of ourselves, you know, that's a new thought process, because it used to be you sit across from your counselor, your coach, your therapist. You're like, I'm going to go to therapy today. And you feel like you're kind of, you know, a lab rat. But now it's like, hey, I'm human. I got stuff. You got stuff. We're on this journey together. We're walking each other home, you know, as Ram Dass said. And I'm here for you. And I understand I might not be going through exactly what your battle is, but we're all going through something, and I'm here to support you. Right. So yeah, beautiful.
Yes. Amen to that. All right.
Amen.
My little tangent there.
No, I love it.
The game. I love games on podcasts.
Hey, let me put my glasses on because Hilary doesn't see a lick. All right, here we go. I'm going to throw out a word of something you mentioned.
Okay.
And you just have to come back with one word. So like word association game. That's how I call it. So if I put out one word that you said, don't even give it a second thought. Come back with the first word that comes to mind. This is also muscle memory too. So, all right, here we go. Fears.
Transformation.
Manifesting.
Dreaming.
Science.
Facts.
Psychology.
The mind. I know that's 2 words.
That's okay. That's all right. Abundance.
Generosity.
Model. Look on your face.
Oh, I'm getting stuck on that one.
Can't make them all happy.
Model. What would I? Because I have 2 different thought patterns on that one. Beauty.
Good. I'm glad you made that a positive. I saw your eye roll in the beginning, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
Well, and I'll share why actually, because in one sense it was like something kind of negative because of my old self, but then where I am today, people say like, oh, you're an influencer. And I say, no, I'm not an influencer. My goal is to be influential. And so I look at model with that same thing where I'm like, I'm a model of what is possible.
Love it. Yes.
So that's where I was like, well, do I go my past life or my current life? And then I was like, my brain was like trying to figure it out.
Be where you are. That's great. Maybe in the old days, you would have said something else, right? I love that. And I so agree with you on the influencer word. I hate that word. Right?
Yeah.
Like we're influential. Beautiful. Oh, there's a good word. Influential. Didn't even have to write it down.
Influential.
What is influential? What is the first thing comes to mind?
So you're asking me that one? Influential, sharing knowledge.
Ah, good. And then let's end it on, did I say transformation?
You did.
I did.
I said fears for that one.
You did. Okay. So abundance.
I think I said that one. Generosity.
All right. I don't want to repeat here and there. Oh, I know what I didn't ask you.
And I'll say why I say generosity for that one is because when I live in an abundant state, my cup is full and I want to give as much as possible.
I love that. See, look, the fact that I brought that word back up, there was a reason for it, right? I usually check off, but when I don't check off, I don't know where the heck I am. But I know I didn't ask you this one. Sharper.
Full.
Yeah. By the way, could you have a better last name?
Yeah, Sharp. And it's funny, when I was younger, I actually like have a specific memory of me walking home, and I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but I remember being like, Nikki Sharp, that's the name of, like, it's a good name, but you know, and I'm like young enough that I didn't have a career yet. I don't even think I'd started modeling, and I'm like, that's the name of either, like, I'm gonna be a famous porn star.
Oh my God, I was just gonna say that.
or like I'm gonna be really well known, just because the name itself is so good. And it just like, it always made me laugh, and I'm like, well, I didn't go in the direction of porn star. I could always join OnlyFans, though. Who knows? It's not too late.
So funny. I had a feeling you were going to go there.
Who knows where this name will take me?
Well, that's your growth. You wouldn't say that now. Yeah. But when you were saying that you were walking along thinking that, I'm like, she's going to think she sounds like a porn star.
Yeah, but doesn't it like Nikki Sharp? Like,
yeah,
you can see,
it has that feel
but I will
to
say,
it. But it's a good
also
name.
have I have such a respect for women who do that, whatever that business is. And I guess more so I'm saying like strippers. I don't know if you've seen the movie Hustlers, but like they are businesswomen. But I've also taken S Factor classes where it's all about the pole and learning to strip dance. And it's, as you do that, you shed so many layers of yourself, what holds you back. And it's such an emotionally freeing practice. And I'm like, one, it takes so much strength. Two, you have to be, it doesn't matter what your body looks like. You have to be confident in you here today, because you see all shapes and sizes. And then on top of that, it's like, it becomes such an empowering practice, regardless of what you're doing. So my whole mindset on that has changed as well, where I just don't look at anything as being like fully negative in this life,
dirty.
because there's so much, or dirty. Yeah. There's so much that goes into everything in life. And I think that's, I'm a learner of life.
Yeah. And on that, I mean, the art of the tease, burlesque, was like so popular, and it's beautiful and it's liberating. And so whether it's strip tease or I think dancing, let's call it exotic dancing, whatever you want to call it, whether it is doing the silks, whether it is pole dancing, which, by the way, if you've ever watched any videos of people doing that, I'm like, I want those muscles to show up. I mean, that is like, they make it look so easy. Hard. I haven't tried it yet. I do want to try it because I agree with you. I think it's liberating, but it's also a workout. And it's beautiful.
It is honestly the hardest workout I've ever done. Ever.
I imagine.
Bruises everywhere, the strength you have to have. But it's not just that. Like, I have a tendency to be in my masculine because of trauma from childhood, which now my journey is being more and more in my feminine. But when I get excited, I can go into that kind of masculine energy. And so that practice of the pole and silks, which I've done, and any sort of striptease, it kind of forces you to be in that feminine. And so it, like, even for me, it's like ripping out part of that ego, that identity.
Yeah. My cat just showed up. Apparently she agrees because she's totally in her feminine. Come here, Eliza. I get it.
I also love it when like animals or baby, like that's during the pandemic, like seeing, the videos that would go viral of like kids running in the room when they're on the news, or like animals, because
that's life.
It's making things more human.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm leaving the meow in. This cat is like 17 years old. She can have her way. Come here, honey. Come say hi to Nikki. Come here. Come on. Come here. Are you allergic to cats? Like, that matters.
No, I have one. I know. It's like,
now she's doing the art of the tease. She won't come over here. But here she is. She hasn't made an appearance on Hilistically Speaking in a while.
Oh,
so for those,
oh my God, precious.
Those who are watching,
I have a cat who's
love this girl.
Oh my cat's sleeping. He's when we talk about the attachment styles, he is anxious avoidant. Like, literally, my cat needs therapy.
Totally, she's a diva. Calicos are like, they've got some issues, but this is Miss Eliza Doolittle, and she has not made an appearance in a while. So hi, welcome, Nikki, to the show. She just wants to sit on your lap. That's all I want to do. But and going back to that, I love the idea of people getting in touch with their femininity. And you know what? I've also seen men doing pole dancing and silks and trying this body work. And I did something years ago called Koya, which was like free dancing when I was on a retreat in Costa Rica. And it was not the retreat I was on, but they were there while we were there. And I have never felt so liberated just moving my body in a way that normally maybe I would judge myself, right? But when you're standing in a community in a room, and even if you're not, and there's nobody else there, let go. Like, surrender and release to like your body's movement. We're made up mostly of water anyway. Like, you gotta move. So I love that you do that. Nikki Sharp is a great name, whether it is an amazing exotic dancer, porn star, podcaster, or coach that is running this phenomenal program called the Ultimate Transformation Program, which we're going to share in the notes. I just want to say thank you for being here. And the last thing I want to leave with you as a question, and that is, what would you like to leave with Holistically Speaking listeners and those watching on YouTube?
Oh, gosh. I would say just remembering wherever you are right now, although it might be tough and you might feel, why me? And you want a change. As much as I hate to say it, you're exactly where you're meant to be, because there's a lesson that will come out of it. And you'll look back on this if you're willing to just persevere and know that you are where you're meant to be, listening to this right now, wherever in the world you are. You will look back and realize that everything has happened for a reason. And when you can truly believe that, suffering then becomes optional. Instead, it's just a challenge you're going through, but suffering itself becomes optional, meaning that we're all going to go through challenges. But if you know that you will come out of it, wherever you are, whatever you're going through in this moment, it makes it a little bit easier to deal with. So I would leave everyone with that.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your story. And I am so excited to share this with Holistically Speaking listeners, share you. And by the way, thank you for welcoming me on The Sharper Life. I'm really excited to be a part of that and share my journey, because
Absolutely.
It really is about that, So thanks, Nikki.
It is.
Appreciate it.
It's collaboration and sharing and helping other people. And thank you for having me.
Okay, sunshine, do not delay signing up for Nikki's Ultimate Transformation Program. And remember, you use my code, you get 10% off. That link is in the listen notes for you to grab, test it out, give it a try, because it is truly going to be a journey that you're on with Nikki for the next couple months. So do not delay. That program starts really soon. And remember, I want to hear from you. Send me those gratitude moments. I have a special episode coming up in a few weeks, and I want to know what you're grateful for. If you put it out there, you are manifesting it, you are declaring it, you are putting it out there into the universe, what you're grateful for. And when you put that out there, what do you think's going to come back? So all you have to do to share your gratitude moment, what you're grateful for, is go to speakerpipe.com/holistically speaking and leave me your voice there. Don't forget to tell me where you're from, where you are listening from, who you are. If you're a podcaster, share the name of your podcast and just let me know. And you can also leave it in an email at holisticallyspeaking@gmail.com. Amplify that voice. It's important to be heard. And on that note, thanks for listening. Be kind to your mind, be open to transformation, and remember that your shifts are your gifts, and that's life's present to you. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Be well.